This is Laricy Live, and I'm your host, Matt Laricy. We're giving you unfiltered access to the world of real estate, where we can cover the market trends, news, and honest answers to keep you ahead of the real estate game. Laricy Live is brought to you by Lincoln Title. Lincoln Title is the best and most efficient title company in Chicago and is the best place to close your property. Laricy Live is brought to you by Guaranteed Rate and Ben Cohen. Ben Cohen is the #1 lender in Illinois and can close your loan in as fast as 8 days. Today, we are talking about what does the Super Bowl have to do with real estate? I'm going to tell you guys it has everything, and I mean everything, to do with real estate. You would be surprised about how much football and real estate go together. You know, there's the market changes before and after the Super Bowl. So let's start with it. What happens to the market before the Super Bowl? Before the Super Bowl, we got a lot of people who come back from holiday, January 2nd, and they're juiced up, ready to buy. New year, new me. They got these April, May, June leases, and they're ready to strike. But there's nothing on the market because the average consumer that's selling thinks the best time to sell is March or April. So before the Super Bowl, the market takes off with demand, and there's little to no inventory at all. And then what happens after is we see more inventory hit the market. We don't see a ton. It's not like just like the floodgates open and it's nonstop inventory that comes in the marketplace. We just see more inventory hit. Why do some people think the best time ever to list is the day after the Super Bowl? So for everybody out there, look at the listings. Look at the amount of activity. We'll see if I'm right, because the Super Bowl is this Sunday, and by the time this comes out, it'll probably be a week after it. But let me tell you something. The day after the Super Bowl is a huge listing time, because 30 some odd years ago, some idiot wrote in some paper that the best time ever to list is the day after the Super Bowl. And for some reason, that kind of caught on. That became the Kool-Aid that everybody drank. I will tell you, ever since Thanksgiving, almost every listing appointment I have gone on, the seller has said, well, I want to get my place ready, that is just to make sure that I'm ready to list just after the Super Bowl. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, who in their right mind came up with this theory? But although I always try to convince my sellers to list before the Super Bowl, most people are just yes men, and they listen to their clients, and their client says that's when they list it, so they go with it. So that's why a lot of people think that, the best time to list is the day after Super Bowl. It's like an old wives' tale that people have kind of come to believe. And it's kind of like this time when a lot of people, I think people use big dates as targets. And, a lot of people use their place for like parties on Super Bowl, and it's just something that they kind of get their place ready for. And I think it's just kind of caught on, and it's just become a thing in America now. And I've recently just read a survey. It probably just came out because it's right around the Super Bowl, but they said that baseball is no longer America's pastime, but it's football. And now that football is America's pastime, that means that, the Super Bowl is essentially like Christmas. More people watch it than any other event. And I'll tell you, I think it's just a good target date for people to go on the market. It's kind of like how some people are like, well, I'm going to list after the Christmas season. A lot of people are like, well, I'll list right after the Super Bowl. Is the Super Bowl weekend itself dead? I wouldn't say so. I will say, and I'm not trying to sound sexist here, but I do see more women looking on the Super Bowl weekend without their husbands, especially on Sunday. They'll be like, oh, I'm going to get, my partner or my husband or whatever to come next week because, they're out. And I'm telling you, it's going to happen this weekend. It happens every single time. Sunday is actually really busy. It does die down around like 4-ish. But up until 4, it's kind of like a normal Sunday, but I feel like we're only seeing half of who's out there looking. How much new inventory can one expect after the Super Bowl? I would say that we're going to see inventory grow by 25% on a low side. It's going to be crazy. So many people want to list, and we are, last year we had the housing freeze where people were frozen in place, meaning that they had less than a 3% interest rate. They were kind of locked in. They kind of thought rates would keep going down because they hit like in the 7s, right? And they thought, hey, rates would drop, and then the rates didn't drop, so they were frozen because it's like, well, I don't want to give up the rate that I have today to go spend, a record high in a price and then give up my, 3% rate for 7%, so they kind of stay put. And then this year, people are like, you know what? Rates are rates. They're at like an 18-month-ish low right now, and they've kind of come to grips with that's where it's going to be. So it's like essentially, there's going to see there's a lot more people who are going to list this year. I do think that overall, I'm on record to say I think we're going to have 30% more inventory this year than we had last year, and I think a lot of that's going to be have to do with last year's housing freeze and the rates being lower. And I think we're going to really start seeing that surge in inventory is going to be right after the Super Bowl. So mark my words, I think inventory is going to increase by 25%. What do I think about the Taylor Swift situation? I think in the Taylor Swift situation, I think it's a genius move. Like, here's my conspiracy theory on this, okay? The NFL got together like, hey, listen, we need to kind of up our reputation, right? We need some good press. And they're like, who's really popular? Like, I don't know, Taylor Swift. They're like, let's get Taylor Swift. So they get Taylor Swift involved. Like, hey, let's think outside the box, right? This is the box of marketing. Let's think outside the box. Let's assign this girl a boyfriend. And put him on like a popular team. And I bet you all the guys in the room are like, I don't know, like the Chiefs. Chiefs are really popular. And I'm like, yeah, the Chiefs. Like, Travis Kelce. He's a good-looking guy. He's kind of well-known. Let's give him her. And then they started dating. And, their viewership is up. I don't even know how much percent. It's crazy. So, my thoughts on the Taylor Swift situation is in my head, I think it's going to go down as one of the most genius marketing campaigns in history. I'm not hating on it. Listen, I didn't think of the idea, but when you look back on it, I think it's great. Could I be a complete crazo nutbag like alien conspiracy theorist for coming up with this? 100%. But I'm just telling you right now, I feel like this could be true. I feel like this is as believable as a relationship is believable. I think it go either way. Time will tell, guys. Time will tell. What do people think? Why do people wait till after the Super Bowl to list? I think it's just that deadline. And I think that this old wives' tale over years and years and years have kind of caught on. If you really think about it, it kind of makes sense, right? Right after the first year, a lot of people are still kind of sulking in after the holidays. January's kind of a shit month. Nothing really happens for people. People are still kind of trying to wheeze off the holiday hangover. And then they're finally like, okay, the Super Bowl's a target date because it's in the first week of February. Well, now it's the second week. And they just want to use that to try to list. And then the weather starts to somewhat start to break in most parts of the country. Not Chicago, it gets worse. But in most parts of the country, it starts to break a little bit. So I think that's why people thought of it. And because that saying came, 30-something years ago, I think it made sense to a lot of people and it kind of stuck. And I think that's why a lot of people wait till after the Super Bowl to list. Do I tell my clients to wait till after Super Bowl? No. Here's the thing, guys. There's this old rule. Now, I went to Eastern Illinois University, so I don't got one of these Harvard degrees or anything like that, and I got C's at Eastern. Okay, so I'm not a very academic, intelligent guy. I'm reminded by my old man every day of the week about how dumb I am, how I got a 20 on my ACT. So I'm definitely stupid. Okay, we could say that, but I can tell you that I've always been told by the very rich elitists that there's this rule that they created, not me, of supply and demand, okay? And according to these elitists and academics that are super intelligent, they said that if you have, lower supply and higher demand, your price will go up. And I said, well, hey, that sounds like a pretty good theory, Mr. Harvard, right? So if there's a lot less inventory at the front part of the year and the demand's the highest in January because a lot of people have these March, April, May leases and they have to buy, statistically speaking, according to the academics and the people who are the very intelligent people, that would mean that I want to list before the Super Bowl because that's when inventory is the lowest. And if that's when inventory is the lowest and the demand is the highest, you'd probably get more price. So when my clients ask me, is it better to list before or after the Super Bowl? I say, well, according to the elites and academics, they say, according to this rule of supply and demand, to list when supply is at the lowest. So I'm going to say, let's list before the Super Bowl, okay? But all is not lost because if you're watching this now and you want to be able to sell, we've already missed that boat. So I will tell you that you still have time to list because the first two waves of inventory, which we talked in the last podcast, is right after the first year. And then after the Super Bowl, you're still going to be in that second wave. It's still a good wave to list. It's just not, in my opinion, the best wave ever to list. When is the next big wave? Well, spring break. So remember, you got right after the first of the year, you got the Super Bowl, and you got spring break. Spring break is the wave where, remember I've said this last week, is when all the troops come in. This is when inventory is really going to be coming in nonstop and very consistent. That doesn't mean it's not going to sell, but I will tell you it's not going to sell for as much or as fast. It drives me crazy when I got a seller that's in April, May, that's like, hey, Matt, my neighbor sold in February for $50,000 more than me. Why am I still sitting on the market and we're the same price? There's less demand. guys, again, remember, these guys created this rule of supply and demand. If you have tripled if there's way more supply, so if you have tripled the supply, okay, in April than you did in February, you're not going to get as much money. I cannot change the market. I can only tell you what happens at certain types of the year, but what happens in the market, I can't change. So the more, inventory you have, the more competition you have, the less price you're going to get. Is this really the kickoff of the spring market? I kind of like how we worked in that kickoff with the whole football thing. If you haven't caught on to that, guys, I do think that this does kick off the official spring market. Although I like to say that spring market kicks off January 2nd. I would say because most of America thinks the best time to list is after the Super Bowl, that's the official kickoff date. So strap in the day after the Super Bowl, the market's going to get even wilder than it is now. Because that's when people are really going to feel comfortable like, hey, here's the market. We're just warming up. Right now, people think they're busy. They think they're busy. Like Gretchen thinks she's busy right now. Yeah, you think you're busy now? Just wait. Just wait. They want to have mental break. They're having mental breakdowns in January. I'm like, yes. That's not even close. We're warming up. We're just getting juiced up. They don't know what busy season. I always tell people, you want to know what busy season's like? I love it when people tell me I'm busy. I'm like, do you know what busy is? Do you have any idea what busy is? Busy is your eyes twitching. You haven't slept in 4 days and you literally feel like you've had 6 heart attacks. That's busy. Busy is not being busy for a couple hours. Okay. Busy during busy season, prime time, it's a whole different level. If you have an experience that I'm telling you right now, 99.9% of people would either have a mental breakdown or a heart attack. Gretchen's starting to feel it right now in mid-January, but just wait till March, Gretch. Just wait till March. You got here before me. I'll give it. She did, for the record, Gretchen did beat me here to the office today, but I was, I'm always working. Is there hope for me as a buyer for more inventory? So this is a big thing too. I've had a lot of buyers. And if you're one of my buyers watching this, you're like, Matt, I just feel like I haven't seen anything. I'm getting really discouraged. Don't worry. Worry not. Worry not. We will see more inventory after the Super Bowl. The average consumer that's selling thinks selling in January is stupid, okay? That is what everybody thinks. I can't tell you how many listings appointments I go on. We got to get on the market in January. Like, January? Who would list in January? It's like, well, that's why you want to list, because nobody else thinks that's a good time to list, okay? So if you're a buyer out there and you're nervous about, hey, like, what am I going to do? Like, I don't see any inventory and spend January. I'm like, don't worry about it. We haven't seen shit. Inventory is really going to start coming in crazy after the Super Bowl. So yes, is there hope for you? There's plenty of hope, okay? Can we expect more demand to come back to the downtown areas after the Super Bowl? So the downtown areas have been getting absolutely crushed, and we have not experienced low inventory downtown. We have experienced high inventory, specifically in the luxury market. And I will tell you, I think that we will have hope. So like we've talked about this, that, we got a spring wave going on in the city. I think it's going to be a spring splash downtown. So I do think that we're going to see more people. I don't think the market's going to be back. I mean, literally for the downtown market's demand to come back, we need less crime. We need more people back to work. That's just a God honest truth. Anybody that tells you otherwise is either full of shit or just like lying to your face. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You need those two things to change. I don't think that they're going to change for another 18 to 24 months. I think we need a new guy in charge to kind of help change this. But, for the meantime, I do think that the wildfire is starting to catch back on again. To want to come back to the heart of the city, but we're still a bit of ways. So if you're selling, I think there's hope. I don't think it's the most hope you're going to see for properties downtown, but I do think it's going to be more hope this year than last year. Do you get more price before the Super Bowl or after spring break? So the last two waves, right? So this is a good question. I got a lot of sellers that are going to ask me, should I list now, okay, right after Super Bowl, or should I list after spring break? I will tell you right now, I've gone on more listing appointments than I can count the last couple of weeks, and I am forcing everybody to go on before the Super Bowl or right after the Super Bowl and not waiting until spring break. Again, guys, supply and demand. There's going to be less demand in March and April than there is in February and March, and there's going to be less supply. So just think about it that way. If you got a lease that comes up in March, April, May, or first part of June, and you go on in April, you can't go to a March lease. You can't get an April lease, and you can't get a March lease. Okay? I'm sorry. You can't get an April lease. You can't get a March lease. You can't get an April lease. You can't get a May lease. Okay? So if you go on in March, you lost those three. Now you're targeting a June, a July, or an August renter. Okay? Now you may say, hey, man, not everybody's looking to rent or blah, blah. I get it. But the average person that's buying is kind of in these things. Okay? So it's like me going to the casino. What are my odds? Well, the greater the odds, the greater I have to sell for more money. So, list it before spring break. If you can't list it before spring break, list it on spring break. Beat the Memorial Day rush. If you can't beat the Memorial Day rush, beat the July 4th rush. Can't beat July 4th rush, beat the Labor Day rush. I mean, these things are, that's just a endless real estate cycle of what you got to try to beat. Let's see here. What types of buyers are looking after the Super Bowl? Late spring, early summer lease buyers, or people who have kids, okay? Like young kids. They're usually ones that are starting to kind of kick it off. So those are going to be your two main people that are kind of looking. We don't see as many investors right after Super Bowl, because I'll tell you right now, every investor I know doesn't want to pay market, and you can't get below market pricing at the hottest time of year. My investors that have called me up say, hey, I want a steal. I'm like, so do I. They're like, yeah, well, let's get one. I'm like, okay, well, getting a steal and buying during the hottest time of the year, those two, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. You want a steal, you buy in October, November, December when the world's going to end. January, February, March, no steals happen. So that's why right now you're going to mostly get first-time buyers, entry-level luxury buyers, or people with kids. Young kids, okay, not in school age yet. That's usually who's going to be seen right after the Super Bowl. When listing after the Super Bowl, is it better to list high and leave room to negotiate, or price it to sell? I will tell you right now, the places that move the fastest and get the most money, price it to sell. You price it at market and flies, because during the spring season, every buyer has been outbid at least once. And they want what they can't have. Imagine when you go to Nordstrom, it's an anniversary sale. You go in there for one pair of jeans and you leave with three because you're like, well, I saved $300. Why wouldn't I, right? So if you price it at market, buyers are going to be like, crap, that's priced really well. And they're not even looking. They may say it at $550, like that's worth $550. I'm going to give them $575 because I want to win. Okay? So they just go right over ask price. They don't even think twice about it. In the fall time, you want to price and negotiate because people in the fall want to try to negotiate more and they're negotiating mentalities. But in the spring market, you price it to move it, and that is what will make you the most money guaranteed. If I want to get the most money for my place, is it better to get it up right away or make it look right? Make it look right, especially if you're under $1 million. People are very picky right now. So if the place doesn't show well, you're not going to get the best price. Do everything you can to make sure the place is presentable, and the more presentable it is, the more money you're going to get. What do I think is going to happen between Super Bowl and spring break? I think this is going to be a peak. I think these are going to be the best, 6 weeks of the year. All right here. From Super Bowl till spring break is going to be the best times of the year. Do not sleep. Do not take a day off. Do not go home early, because this is it. After spring break happens, we peaked. We'll be at if we're on a line chart, we're going up and then we hit spring break and that's the peak. And then every day from there for the rest of the year, the market will start slowly but surely coming down. And it finally goes down around July 4th, and then we're on a complete decline from July 4th on. But the peak of the peak is spring break. So strap in, enjoy it while you can. If you're looking to buy, it's going to be tough out there for the next couple weeks, but just get ready for it. If you're looking to sell, try to do everything you can to price it right. And if you're a realtor out there, enjoy it while you can. Thanks for listening to Laricy Live.